Well, I'm here with little Rob, my poor old lone rat boy in his rat cave, which I think he's just going to try and hide in because he's realised I'm actually trying to film him. So I'm not sure how much we'll see of little Rob. We got some vet bed here on the sofa to stop him chewing the sofa, and underneath there's a towel because vet bed, the urine will go straight through. So there he is, my poor little old man. Poor little Robbie. Hey, it's a camera. He's doing okay, but he's not really as happy as he was last weekend. He was very sad for 2 days after losing Brandon. Then he sort of cheered up a bit, and he was not too bad. He's spending a lot of time with me. And then suddenly this weekend he's not so happy. Now, he doesn't have very good health. His back legs have been getting quite weak over the past few months. And we know that he does have some sort of weakness there. Now, we've been monitoring his urine weekly because he has elevated levels of protein. He's sniffing the light that's on top of the... There's a light up there. Do you not like it? Let me move it a bit. See if I move it a little bit up here. Maybe it won't be so bright on you. Is that better? Yeah, there's a light because otherwise you're in the cave and it's dark. Yeah. So he's not really a cuddly rat, Rob. So he comes up to see me after a little while. And then he doesn't want to know again. He just wants to sit in his little cave. So I apologise for it being quite dark. It's very hard for me to get the light in really good in here. I think he's looking for that light again. It's very difficult, isn't it, me to move the light about without it falling on your head. But he is in there and he's okay, but he's losing weight, losing quite a lot of weight. And I'm taking him to the vet for a checkup this week because I'm concerned about the amount of protein that is in his urine. It's going right up to the end of the scale, which is not good. He's also not eating as much, which is another reason why, he could be losing weight. So, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't get a friend for Rob. Normally I would have looked for an older friend for him, but we've tried rat introductions before, and he is such a nervous rat. When he was a baby, because I remember I knew him from a baby because he's one of Matilda's babies. He was a beautiful little boy, and then he went away to another home, and he came to me, and he was so nervous. He'd been split up from his brother. He'd been put with these other rats, lovely rats, but they were not his brother, and he missed his brother terribly. He missed his former home. And I don't think he'd been handled much when he'd been there in that 6 months because the lady had a lot of rats, and I don't think she had the time to handle them as much as I handle the rats. So it took him a long time to settle. We tried to introduce him to Barney, to be a friend for Barney, and he has hiccups now, poor little man. Now, hiccups in an older rat any age rat, but it can be a sign of a heart problem. So he's been suffering from hiccups lately a lot as well, that he's never really had before. So it's another reason I want to get him checked out, because frequent hiccups in a rat can be a sign of a heart problem. May not be, but it could be. So we're off to the vet. But sort of kidney disease is something that can happen quite often with older rats. We found it more in the male rats, and they've been on a kidney-friendly diet since they were a year old. Now, none of the other rats have had any kidney problems, but I really does, poor Rob has just been unlucky. So the kidney-friendly diet that they've been on since they were a year has obviously helped, because we didn't have any other rats, male or female, that have had kidney problems. So things to look for, a gradual weight loss. They can sleep a lot more, but these are things that can happen as rats get older anyway. But if they're drinking a lot and they're producing a lot more urine, the urine is passing through their system quicker, the water. You're having a really good little go at that fleece, aren't you? It's something to look for, because obviously if they drink more, they're going to urinate more. but that again can be a sign of diabetes. We've had diabetic rats. It's why it's so important to actually get these illnesses diagnosed by a vet and not try and just guess it yourself, because the symptoms of kidney disease and diabetes and various other diseases, they can all be very similar. So in the later stages, if it's kidney disease, it can lead to anemia, so you can notice paleness around the ears, nose, mouth, toes, and even the teeth. And you can, one of two things can happen. Either they can collect urine around their abdomen area and appear quite bloated, or we have had rats that have suddenly appeared quite shrunken, really badly, and that tends to happen sort of in the later stages. And if they start to have seizures, then their kidneys are failing. And if you experience any of these things in the later stages, such as bloated abdomen, or a rat appears shrunken, or they're having a seizure, it is a thing you really need to get to a vet very quickly, that same day. Now Robbie isn't showing any signs of stress or pain. He's given himself a good wash. I love the way that they hold on to their hair, and they like the Rex rat coat. From about 18 months it does start to get quite thin and patchy, and I was talking to a friend the other day, because they don't seem to, they don't molt individual hairs. It must be coming out in little clumps, but I don't find it. And where does it go to? Because he's lost hair. It must get lost amongst the bedding and we just don't notice it. But I love the way Matilda used to do this as well, that she would really pull at the hair when she was cleaning. So I've had another Rex rat in the past, and I don't recall how she used to clean her hair, but I think it was the same. She would actually grab the handfuls. Now, I know all rats grab their coat, but with the Rexes, we've noticed that they sometimes are like almost pulling the hair out themselves. So it's a little bit of a mystery. If anyone knows a bit more about Rex rats and how they where their coat disappears to, if they've noticed clumps of it in the cage or the bedding. But no, we haven't seen that, so we're not sure where his hair's gone to. It's certainly not come off on me or the sofa or his hammock. So there's lots of things to think about with an older rat. Now, as I've said with Rob, I'm going to do another video about introducing older rats and why you should or shouldn't get a companion for your older rat when you're down to your last rat. There's a lot of things to think about with this. But Rob, if he'd been in perfect health, we would have tried to find him a nice, gentle friend. The same as we would have done with Primrose if her health had been perfect. So it is quite sad that he's not in good health. But he's not really seeming to be too upset of being on his own. Not that you can see much of him now, because he likes to turn his back on me and he's having a little wash. But that's Robbie, so we're off to the vet this week. I'm hoping she can just, check out and see how he's doing. He doesn't look so thin at this angle, but I can feel, I put some pictures up on the Facebook page, you can actually feel all of his bones now, and he has lost a considerable amount of weight, and it's not always easy to see the weight loss, which is not, why normally when we have rats from babies, we get them used to being weighed on the scales, on the kitchen scales, every month. We always put the scales on the floor to weigh the rats. But with Rob, he was so nervous, there's no way he would sit on the scale. He wouldn't sit in the cardboard box, he wouldn't sit in the carrier happily. So we haven't actually weighed him, so we can't go by weighing him. We have to just judge by the way he looks and the way he feels when we pick him up. And I just wish he was a little bit more cuddly, but that's Rob. He's had a lot of trauma when he was 6 months old, in his first 6 months, and he's settled down, he accepts us, and he's a completely different boy to when he first arrived, but he is still basically a very nervous rat. So any little change, it just affects him. So I don't really want to take him to the vet too often, but I've come to the stage here where I really do just need to get him checked out. So we're hoping that won't be too traumatising for Rob. And we just have to see what happens. But just having one rat, it's so alien to me to have just one rat. It goes against everything that I've ever done. But there comes a time when, you know, you will be down to your last rat, and there's a lot of decisions to be made. And if it wasn't for me having to take a break because of my health, then we would not be in this situation. I would have had another cage of rats already. So there we go. Things change, unfortunately. So that's little Rob, and nice to see his handsome face again, but he's having a really good clean there. I think another thing as well to look out for with the older rats is dry, itchy skin. That's another sign of the aging process. Hey Rob, beautiful boy. I can't actually give him a tickle at the moment. I'm holding up the top of the house. Hello, my lovely. He's a lovely boy, isn't he? I wish you'd let me cuddle you more. He likes to sit next to me, and he loves to go to sleep up here next to me. But he doesn't really like to sit on my knee for long. Hey, he's a beautiful boy. He's a beautiful boy, yeah. Beautiful boy. Yes, he is. He's a beautiful man, and he likes to have a little tickle, don't you? Likes his head to be stroked and his back, and round his ears. He's a good boy. I'll get the light right on it. There we go. There he is. See, he's so gentle. He's so gentle. Yes, he is. Look at him. Beautiful Rexy boy, aren't you? Yeah, Matilda's little man. Matilda's little boy. Like your mummy. So there he is, my beautiful little Robbie. That I am really concerned that how much longer I'll actually have with him. But at the moment he is okay, but it is a worry. I know he's not as happy as he should be, and that's really, really upsetting. Losing little Brandon was very traumatic, wasn't it, darling? Losing little Brandon. I've had to modify the cage so that Rob can get round easier. Lots of cargo nets so he can pull himself around. I was going to put him into a one-level cage, which I normally do, but he's still getting around okay, and I didn't want to traumatise him any more than he already was after losing Brandon. So there's my little man. Poor little boy. Put up with this for hours, won't you? Yeah, quite happy to sit here and just have me stroking you. Good boy. He's a good little man.